There are 5 basic types of artifacts that each character can equip in Genshin Impact. They are Flower of Life, Plume of Death, Sands of Aeon, Goblet of Eonathim, and Circlet of Logos. Each artifact has a primary or main stat and one or more secondary or substats. Which main stats and substats matter most will depend on the character you want to use them on. An artifact's main stats are its strongest asset and will improve with every level you strengthen it. Substats are randomly assigned, so it's a luck of the draw situation. Ideally, you get a combination of main stat with substats your character benefits the most from. One substat is randomly added or improved with every 4 artifact levels, and the maximum number of substats an artifact can have is 4 total. Flower artifacts will always have a flat HP main stat, which is different from HP percent stats. Plume artifacts will always have a flat attack main stat, which is separate from the attack percent stat. Sands artifacts have a random main stat and can be any of the following: attack percent, defense percent, HP percent, elemental mastery, or energy recharge. Goblet artifacts have a random main stat and can be attack percent, defense percent, HP percent, or bonus damage of a specific type, such as cryo damage, physical damage, or pyro damage bonus. Circlet artifacts have a random main stat and have the largest pool of possible stats. These include attack percent, defense percent, HP percent, elemental mastery, crit rate, crit damage, or healing bonus. Artifacts come from specific domains, which usually have 2 unique sets in each. They cost 20 daily resin to claim after each challenge completion and are randomly rewarded. So you never know for sure how many you will get, what types, or from which of the domain's available sets, what rarity they are, or what their main and substats will be. Artifact rarities come in 5 varieties, and their maximum upgrade level increases at each rarity. Things like the maximum number of substats and the strength of their base stats also improves with higher rarity versions. Some artifact sets max out at 3-star rarity, and others only have 4-star and 5-star rarity versions. For newer players at lower levels, I recommend starting with 4-star artifacts as your primary goal for your characters, and working your way up to the 5-star ones later on, as they are harder to get until you are at higher levels in the game. Once you start getting 4-star artifacts regularly, I would also recommend keeping the Auto EXP setting in the artifact menu to 3-star artifacts and below. In other words, save your 4-star and 5-star artifacts to use for your characters, and use 3-star artifacts and below to power up those artifacts. Once you reach the higher adventure ranks and you have been playing the game for a good while, you can start to shift your focus to primarily using 5-star artifacts, and change the Auto EXP setting to also use 4-star artifacts for leveling. But this is a slow and gradual process that will take a long time to fully adapt your characters to, so go easy on the pace when upgrading your characters from 4-star to 5-star artifacts. You can use older artifacts that you already leveled up as significant sources of experience for better artifacts you get later, so it's not a waste to power up 4-star artifacts earlier on. The best artifact sets for your character to use will depend on the way you are building them. You can start with the built-in training guide, which will give you a good idea, and for more casual players it may be enough on its own. But for people who want to dive deeper, this is where online build guides come in to help explain why a character works the way that they do, and what artifact sets are best to use depending on the build and playstyle you want to foster. Every artifact set grants a bonus if a character equips 2 pieces of the same set, and a further bonus for equipping 4 pieces from that set. In most cases, character builds will rely on the bonuses from equipping 4 pieces of a specific set, but there are some exceptions where you instead equip 2 pieces from 2 specific sets and focus more on their respective 2-piece bonuses. The 5th artifact can be flexible and is often easier to supplement with a different set entirely in order to get the main and substats that fit best for your character's preferred build and playstyle. Artifacts also have intriguing bits of lore that tie into the story and world of Teyvat for those who are interested in learning more. As you progress further into the game, 2 other methods for gaining artifacts become available besides domains. The first is the Mystic Offering feature of the crafting system, which creates an artifact strongbox. The Mystic Offering allows you to exchange 3 artifacts of 5-star rarity for 1 5-star artifact from the specific set of your choosing. The artifact you receive will be a random piece with random stats, just like as if you had gotten it from the domain. But it can be helpful if you have an excess of unused 5-star artifacts from other sets, and you want to focus on gathering more pieces of a different set instead, without using up a ton of resin in the process. The sets you can choose from with the Mystic Offering are limited, and the latest sets added to the game most recently are absent, but more are added over time, so the feature continues to become more useful as the game develops further. The second and newest feature added to the game during the Natlan cycle is the Artifact Transmuter system. This one is more complex than the Mystic Offering, but it also allows you to specifically choose the exact artifact piece, as well as its main stat and 2 of its 4 substats, so it can be very helpful in creating a specific piece you need for a character. It requires the rare Sanctifying Elixir item in order to use, and the amount of elixirs that you will need depends on the piece you want to make. Flowers and plumes only require a single elixir, but the other pieces require more, with sands needing 2 elixirs, goblets requiring the most at 4 elixirs, and circlets needing 3 in order to be created. You start by selecting the set you want to craft the artifact from, and then the piece in particular. From there, it shows a list of main stats you can select from, and once you have chosen the main stat you want for your artifact, it brings up a second list for you to choose 2 substats. Just like with regular artifact stat rules, you won't be able to choose the same substat that you picked for the main stat, and the other 2 substats that you don't specify are randomly assigned, so there is still some luck involved. However, in general, this can be an extremely helpful way to get the frustratingly missing pieces in your character's artifact sets that you just can't seem to get to show up randomly from completing artifact domains. That said, the Sanctifying Elixir items needed to define artifacts with this system are extremely rare, so you won't be able to do this more than a couple times at best. There is a way to craft more of these elixirs via the artifact extraction screen, but this requires using up many artifacts that have already been leveled up, and in total requires 100 levels worth of artifacts that you destroy just to create a single elixir. So it is a very steep price to pay in terms of time and investment involved to create a single artifact, especially if you need a circlet or a goblet in particular. Not only that, but there are also time limits in place restricting the number of artifacts you can define with the Transmuter within a given period. So even if you had a lot of the Sanctifying Elixirs saved up, you won't be able to go crazy with defining a lot of them at once, especially if you want to create multiple artifact pieces from the same set, as there is a limit of 1 per artifact set for each period. Still, this can be a useful, if infrequently used, feature to help you get those last few stubborn artifacts that just don't seem to show up no matter how many times you use your daily resin on the domain. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like to show your support, and you can find even more of my Genshin Impact tutorials here. Thank you for watching. Until next time.